Good morning. It is Friday. That means it's time for the Friday Grief Chat. I'm Jill.
I'm Deb.
That's Zorro. He's helping us these days.
Oh,
And welcome to the Friday Grief Chat. If you hear bad breathing, it's not us, it's him. And don't worry
I won't. And I'm glad you reminded me. I need to do a little inhaler. I love that I have an inhaler now because I don't cough the way I used to.
That's how it should be.
Oh, I'm like, sweetheart, where have you been all my life? Hmm.
Yes.
So anyway, couple things. Uh, what's on your heart this week? That's what I put out to everybody else. I hope we have some viewers, and if not, please know that you can always tell us what's on your heart. You can write it in the comments. And if there's something you want us, you could use us a little as a journal and say, I just need to write this out. No comment needed. You're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
So, what's on your heart, Jill?
I've been hearing a lot this week from folks who are keeping up that mantra that says, I can't ask for help. I'm okay. I can do this. If I cry in front of someone, it's going to make them feel bad. I can't cry in front of my family. I can't cry with colleagues. I can't say that I'm overwhelmed. And some of it is from actual losses where someone has died, and some of it's just from the losses surrounding us. And for some, it's, old memories coming up. I can't tell you how much I want people to say to social media, please don't show me memories from these dates, because then you don't see those memories. They don't flash up on your feed, right? Because otherwise they will.
Right.
But there's just a whole lot of that, and having to break it down and how to make it okay to say, I need help because I'm a human being, and sometimes life is hard. And that's how we connect with one another and keep from being isolated and lonely is, hi, I can help, or hi, I need help, or both.
I too hear this is one of the blockages to asking for help. I think I can get by just a little bit longer. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll be okay. And then you wait, and there's a point where I'll be okay does not work because you start deteriorating emotionally, physically, spiritually sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And or you feel like I have other views about that, but you're not really deteriorating spiritually. I just want everybody to know that it just feels like connections to Mother Earth, or as they say, Mother Earth, Father God. That you're not connected, and then you start not feeling connected to people, and then you start not feeling connected to yourself, and you can't even ask yourself, what is it that you want?
What should I allow myself? What do I deserve? There's a lot of that too. I shouldn't do this for myself. I can get by. And yes, we can all get by. But if you can, in fact, nurture yourself just a little bit, even if it's just, I'm going to, instead of just having coffee that's gone cold and no breakfast, I can make one hot piece of toast and reheat my coffee. That's a nurture moment, right? How do I, right?
Absolutely.
How do we find ways to make it okay to be connected and to say, I want to be connected, right?
Another part to that is people judging themselves that they didn't do it right, they didn't do it good enough, they didn't,
they weren't strong enough, they
weren't
couldn't do it
strong enough,
themselves.
right? Or in those little nurture moments, well, all I could do was heat up my coffee and grab a piece of toast. I really couldn't do what I knew I needed to do. And that's a hard one, don't you think? It's not giving ourselves well, let me shift the conversation a little.
Sure.
And I had a very interesting grief group this week. One of the participants talked about the grief that they feel regarding not able to talk to one of their children about political stuff, and they can't find any middle ground.
The isolation that causes.
The isolation that it feels like this person isn't seen, they're not really heard. And the reason why I said shifted from previous conversation, because this person said, here, while they were looking at what wasn't right for them, right, they did look at, and they said something like, well, at least now they contact me when they find out I'm ill, or they ask to be able to see me for the future. Like, when are you coming to visit? When are you doing this? And so one part is really crappy, right? They're not able to have what the participant talked about, meaningful discussions, right? The why do you feel that way? What's your influences? Teach me, blah, blah, blah. And on the other hand, they are saying, oh, we do want to be around you. You hear what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, this is as far as meaningful can go, which is still something. Taking care of yourself with reheated coffee and a piece of toast is taking care of yourself. If you know to put that in your stomach before you have your medication, taking your meds every day,
right?
That there are people in the world, can't afford meds. Sorry to say it, like, sorry, there's starving children in China type of thing. But one, they can't afford it, but two, they just don't.
Right.
They don't take their meds every day. And wow, good for you that you took your meds.
Right. And, and there's ways we can make that more likely by using even technology for reminders. There are things we can do to help ourselves with that will actually give us a little bit of a serotonin rush that, oh, I did something good and I can be proud of myself, and I'm taking care of myself by taking my meds or by reaching out to someone or by accomplishing something. And it's that struggle to say, I deserve to self-nurture and I deserve to live feeling better physically or emotionally or both, or I deserve to live in a house that feels better than it does right now. It's all of those things. And it's such a loss when someone doesn't, and it causes them to withdraw and for their mood to drop. And then they just don't have anything really left to draw on, and they are isolated and sad and alone. And it shouldn't be that.
Yeah. And you're no one person, no single person can take care of an entire family's needs,
Right.
or an entire community's needs, or an entire city's needs, and then states' needs, then the world's needs. I mean, it's just not possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for those in leadership positions, it often feels like, remember those plates that would be on a stick? You know, like you're balancing and you go from one to the other. And while it's okay for a 2-minute vaudeville act, that is not how life really is. And how to learn to take care of yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually. I'm doing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can tell.
Right.
And nothing is in a straight line. It's, life happens. One minute you're having part of your colon taken out, and the next minute you're I am talking about a friend, and then the next minute you're having 6 months later more taken out, and your whole lifestyle has changed.
Right.
It's and the world changed in between.
The world doesn't stop when we're out in the middle of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't. We help with a support group at a local senior center, and the group most recently, everyone there had their own things going on related to being seniors and coping with lots of things related to that, lots of financial issues, social security issues, lifestyle issues, having food they can make issues, transportation issues. Aging is not for the faint of heart at all, especially those who are not well healed going into it. But then on top of that, grandchildren who were struggling or being bullied at school or XYZ, kids who were homeless, that they're worrying about the grand puppies because the kid's homeless by choice, essentially, but the grandpup is sick there. And there's just so many layers that get involved and create extra. And in all of it, with all of those needs going on, then there's this sense of, well, then I don't deserve to want, to need, to ask for because somebody else has it worse, badder, more terrible, right? And that's
Right.
not true.
I sort of went through that in my mind this morning. I was thinking of estrangement losses in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and then I thought, and not so much to compare whose was worse or not, but not to feel alone. Like I thought of, while I have my estrangement losses, someone else has a homeless child. Someone else I know, child is an addict. So these are all sort of
And that's the way it
estrangement
really
losses.
is. Yeah.
It is. And another person, their child has mental illness. And so another kind of mental illness. So that's also an estrangement, and
And it's an isolation because lots of folks who are dealing with that aren't going to tell other people about it.
that's
There's
right.
a
They're
sense of shame because
afraid.
their kid is not succeeding the way other kids are succeeding. This is the time of
Or
year where everybody's just graduated and kids are going off to college and grad school. And yet there are lots of parents going, oh, I wish my kid could just find a job and be mentally stable. And they can't say that out loud because somebody else's kid just left for Harvard.
that, and I also want to say where maybe you feel your own failures come in. I wasn't a good enough parent. Where did I fail my child that all these lessons of kindness are gone? Where did and then there's the resentment that comes in it from outside influences, right? Or an ex or this or that, right? And so there's all these feelings. And then there's those that act different and they don't realize that's because they've never been in the situation. So they're being sort of like bitchy and nasty.
Yep.
And you can't say anything to them, or you don't want to, but sometimes you just need to say, hey, I know you're grieving. You have every right. And this
You
also
still need
hurts.
to be a nice person. Be
Yes.
decent, be respectful, be kind. Life
Yeah.
is hard and getting harder for a lot of folks, and you can still smile at someone even if you don't know them.
Right.
And you can pet the dog and you can do the things to make life a little bit nicer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and that will recenter you and help you see, okay, I'm taking this a step too far. I need to step it back.
Yeah. Or
Right?
at least receive the information from the universe, however it presents itself, that maybe you've been really hard on this person.
Right?
Maybe it's time for you to admit that. But a lot of people, they're not able to, because their insecurities are, people who judge other people. And I just wrote this. There's a couple people I follow on Facebook, and someone said to the blogger, said something like, wow, you're looking pretty good. You look pretty ragged there for a while, right? Or, I didn't know if everything was okay. You look really ragged. Well, one, you don't know nothing about that
You don't
person,
get to say that, not publicly.
especially people who write these things on Facebook. And I said, people who constantly have to criticize someone's dress, their body size, their anything about their physical appearance, that's a dead giveaway that that person has a lot of insecurities, and now they've projected that on you.
Right.
Otherwise, why do you have to say something? You know?
It's that thing that our parents taught us. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Nobody needs to hear the ugly. Yeah, as a parent, sometimes you have to pull your child aside and say, I don't like your behavior, or you're going to, but not public.
So,
Not makes somebody feel more isolated when they're already struggling. Struggling is bad enough.
so, which leads me to another conversation of, Christine Clifford. I will always remember her. She had breast cancer and she wrote a couple books, and these were in the 90s. And one of the books was Cancer Made Me a Shallower Person. And it was comics, really.
Wow.
About all the ways that she started speaking her mind. And I can understand that when you've been filleted open and dug out and then put back together
and then poisoned.
And then completely, you take all these drugs that changes your appearance, and then people say, "Oh, you're so strong, you're so this," and you feel like shit.
Right.
So I get that. But nowadays, and I'm not going to blame it just on one government official, but I just sort of wonder, why is it that some people think they have the right to say anything to others that is not complimentary, not helpful, not kind? Why do you think it seems like there's an increase? Am I losing it?
It's an actual increase in meanness. And it's not just here. It's lots of places around the world. And it seems like we've unleashed a tidal wave of it's okay not to care what your impact is on others. And it's okay not to help when someone's asking for help. It's to instead criticize. And it starts as small as the family unit and it gets as big as entire government structures. And the way government structures worldwide connect, it's what happened to we need to watch out for the least and the low. What happened to you shouldn't just plain be mean to anyone? It's not necessary.
And it's almost like, I mean, okay, growing up Jewish, I had my share of and observed others religious bigotry.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like all over, even Christians against Christians.
Oh, there's a lot of that.
And that's a loss for me. It's hard. It and I don't even know
how do you cope with it, Deb? How do you put it? You're a religious leader. How do you put it in perspective? How do you find some grace for those who are engaging in the behavior? How do you find humor to cope with it?
So, one, I do not. My filter still works. So the humor is up here because I would not be adding to it. Now, growing up Jewish, I use two humor things. I either minimized it or I exaggerated it, because then that gave back power to me when I felt humiliated or scared for my life. Or only one time did I am grateful for friends in the classroom, because I got up, I had an overload of that within 30 days, and I was in college, and I pulled back my arm and I was going to punch the person. It was, my friends all said, stop, and cultivate friends that'll say, don't say anything. I am finding more and more, or hearing more and more of what others have said about me in a not positive light.
Right.
And that's while it's been some distance, I still go, ugh, ugh. And then I have to remind myself, and this is, I would say to others, what are you really doing what is your purpose here on this earth? And that's a good thing to ask yourself every day. And if you don't ask yourself every day, do it at least once a week. What am I supposed to do here? Um, what's, and you know, and then if you can't do it then, ask yourself once a month. Make sure you do it once a year. New Year's, I do things at the high holidays, especially at Yom Kippur. How can I be more considerate this year? What is it that I need to do? And I reflect on what I didn't do. I try not to go down the hole that way, but I try to use what I say, my light, to go up. And every time and I say this to my congregation, first of all, spiritual work, like democracy, is not a spectator sport. It is reflection, always reflection. Am I doing, and I'm just going to use God in general. You don't have to believe in God. You can use another word. Is this what God wants of me? Is this what the universe wants of me?
Is this how I want to use the days that I have here on this earth for?
Yes. And we don't correct grammar here. And, we don't. And who have I come here to be?
Right.
And start with that. Be self-reflective. Put that energy in to say, could I have handled that better? Now, I understand there are some situations that are so toxic that you want to walk away. Fine. There's nothing you're going to do to change the other person. Is there some resentment in you that is holding back your own light to shine?
Right.
So people talk about forgiveness, and I go, well, the standard way of forgiveness, I think personally, my own views, is it's bullshit. If you're going to forgive someone, you're really letting go of your resentments of them.
Exactly right. What did they not say or do
That's
or
right.
apologize for that you needed? That builds into I'm resentful and hurt by those absences, by
And
those missing pieces, and I need to let that go for my own health, which is
for
grief
my
work.
own health.
And
And
that is grief work in a nutshell.
yes. Yes. So people saying, well, Jesus says forgive 7 times 7 or whatever, or 70 times 7. You don't have to count them out. It takes a while. It takes a way to chip away at your own stuff that prevents you from letting go of resentments, that which you felt as a hurt. And it's so,
It
people,
takes naming them and calling yourself out for them and reframing it so that you can decide what's best for you. And if you need to ask for help to do that,
mm-hmm.
and then to let that go, to give yourself the grace to let that stuff out. Not to say it's okay that someone did that, to say you don't need to carry it.
You know, if I had Jesus, the human, in front of me, I would say, can you explain that more? I just feel like people still think of forgiveness as an excuse for someone else's behavior. In fact, I have been said, can't you give me any grace? Can't you just let it go? Can't you notice it's all, you know, can't you forgive me? Like something's wrong with me.
Those are the moments that you see in funerals where someone disrupts a funeral to turn it into an anger fest about all the things that were wrong with this person. It could have been, I am so grateful that I had the learning lessons from them so I could grow into the person I am now, as opposed to everything wrong with the person who died that you have held on to for 5 or 10 or 40 years. What do we do to give ourselves the grace to say, I don't need to hold that anymore? And I can move into where I need to be without all of that tagging after me.
Do you know, another minister told me this, and I know this is probably wrong, but I swear by it. At any funeral, I'm going to use funerals, the person who causes the most amount of chaos is the one that has the most amount of guilt.
Right.
And I say that to family. I do sort of this thing about weddings and funerals the same as an officiant. Who do you think's going to cause the most amount of problems? They always know. And then I say, who can you get to babysit that person?
Right. Assign them a keeper.
Assign them a keeper. And then I aim to include that person when it's not my family or something. But I really say I have them do a task, or this task is needed. And sometimes it works. 9 out of 10 times it works. Sometimes there's still the ones doing exactly what you said, an anger fest, or some other weird thing that they're doing. Yeah. Making it all about them.
We don't need to do that. We need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And on that note, it is overtime. Next week, Deb will be off taking care of herself and her beloved other half. And I will be here. I've got a few things up my sleeve. I'll let out some drips during the week, along with Zorro's help, because, you can't do anything without Zorro, who makes his needs known. And we will see Deb in 2 weeks. I'll be back in a week. I hope you will join us and share.
See you later, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Bye-bye.